whatever you can. In regards to social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, do you feel that it helps or that it hinders? And in regards to you, Juanita Allan, a lot of stuff is online. A lot of people Google things. So you actually have a publication that needs to be purchased, but they look at it and say, why do I need to buy that if I can just go online and Google whoever's on the cover? So, and is it Erica? You write for a newspaper, but what if no one wants it? You know, do you feel that everyone they're going to go to a blog as opposed to a newspaper? So, you know, you guys take with it whatever you can. Does it help or does it hinder?
For me, I think social media is a great thing. It's a great tool. It's a great aspect. First of all, for any business, it's a great free publicity. It's a great way to get your message out there, what you want out there. And it's a great way to gauge the people who are your readers.
And as far as newspapers, I mean, honestly, I would say the internet, in some ways, it's been a gigantic gift to us. I mean, it's so much easier to do research. You can find things out about that it would have taken hours, years, you know, decades.
I keep harping on this thing in the NFL. Without social media, we're not seeing Ray Rice Colcock's girl, which is kind of foul.
Right.
Because if we don't get that TMZ shot, you ain't seeing old girl go ballistic on Jay-Z. You're not seeing it. So social media, to me, is like a double-edged sword. It's like, okay, on one part, yeah, it's cool. But on the other part, it's like, do I want to peek back at the wizard curtain? Do I really want to know what's really going on? And social media gives it to you whether you want to know or not.
Well, but they're not. Nobody's looking to see if they're truthful or not.
Right.
So you know, I've seen many things on Facebook on my friends' feeds that just get you. Take a look at this video, and you don't know if it's real or not.
Right.
And that becomes the problem.
Right.
Is that while everybody's sharing and everything goes out there, there's no. I hate to use the word gatekeeper in a sense to make sure that something is actually true.
Because if Erica,
If we see something on Twitter, somebody tweets something that may or may not be true, there's an extreme tension to get it immediately and also get it accurately, but you can't do it. It's not possible.
I have a question about the impact of the internet on your respective media's bottom lines. I'm curious about the newspaper. How has the internet affected you? Obviously, from our perspective, we find out about people being laid off and your downside. What is your perspective? What do you think about that? How has it impacted your life and your employees, fellow employees? Newspaper, yes.
I mean, it's been awful. When I started, we used to have a reporter for each suburb. I covered Irondequoit for a time. That was all I covered. Now they've had. I mean, I can't even count the number of layoffs that we've had.
So I think that it's actually sort of helped, but I think we have to actually customize ourselves to it so that we can make a profit off of it. Because you have to come from it. How can we benefit from it? Like
we're working on trying to pull together some of the black culture and the Hispanic culture more. We want to in that area, in that arena. Could you give me some insight on what happens behind the scenes, or what could happen behind the scenes from a media standpoint with blacks and Hispanics to kind of
have some people of color in a newsroom, but who's in charge? Who's calling the shots?
Right.
You know, if we've got a very diverse newsroom, but we're a minority among newsrooms. It's a difficult thing to work with, but that's why there's an RABJ. That's why there's an NAHJ. I mean, because we're fighting for that. We're fighting for that every day. I bet.
Now, on the flip side of that, I will say this: I don't think that we actually get stories pitched enough that deal with those audiences. And I think that if the pitches start coming, and they're good pitches about some of these stories, you would see those things, you would see those types of stories covered more often. The media is behind by about 10 or 15, I would say 20 years, because on camera, we are diverse.
Right.
When it comes to management, we are not. Now, I'll say this about our organization, and this is what I mean by 10 to 20 years behind. Most of our vice presidents are female. None of them are of color.
for me, is maybe you need to have a day when Hispanic and black leadership get together. See, it starts in the community, folks. I'm from the South Bronx, and I'm gonna be real. I never knew black people didn't like Puerto Rican until I came to Rochester. And I never knew Puerto Ricans didn't like blacks until I came to Rochester. It tripped me out. Because I grew up in the Bronx and I ate arroz con pollos. That's chicken and rice. They ate collard greens. It wasn't the separation of culture that they have here in Rochester. It's a separation of culture, and I think part of it may be by design, but part of it is part of us, our ignorance of not trying to come together. So how could we look at the newspaper and ask them to do articles when we ain't together ourselves as black and brown people?
How does a viewer, a subscriber to media information, combat negative portrayals of minorities in media? Who do we write a letter to?
I'm sorry, I jumped in real quick. If you remember back, the young lady who allegedly left her son in the car out in Victor somewhere. If it wasn't for the excellent article that Erica Bryant, she was the only person that really went and we got inside the young lady's head. And that was an outstanding article that should be nominated for something. We found out because Erica took the time and let her people know at the DNC that she was going to go out and interview this young lady, and she did a fantastic job. And that's the importance of having black media on all publications, not only the Challenger, DNC, wherever you're reading, read the black article, because the black writers are going to give you that type of perspective, always.
Well, sometimes I've seen this happen. We'll go out in the community to cover a great story, a good story. But when it comes to broadcast, we only have 60 minutes. And then someone will go out and shoot someone at 5 minutes to air. And then what becomes breaking news? Whoever shot the person, because it's happening right then, and then guess what gets bumped out first? All of the good news we just did. So it's important, as he mentioned before, to make sure that our community is coming together to do the right things, because we ultimately are a result of the community.
Now become the voice of African Americans, Hispanics, whoever you're writing for. So how do you sometimes manage the backlash from the community, because maybe you couldn't have said it or presented really wanted to because you have to get it aired or produced? So how do you work that balance?
I think that is the challenge, because like I said, I was the brown reporter at this small station. I'm like, I can't speak for all people.
Right.
I cannot speak for all people. I am one person. I'm going to do my fair and balanced job of doing the best reporting I can do that's ethical, that's well researched, but I am not all people. And you have to really make them know that.
I just want to say, I just have a comment. I just want to say that this is definitely enlightening to me. And I appreciate every last one of your efforts and accomplishments.
A panel. But the bottom line, again, I want to just reinforce to you, get out ahead of the news, your news. So be diligent about getting your story out and present it the way that you want it presented. So go back to those first contacts and follow through.
When you see something that you don't like in the media, in the mainstream media, if you see something you don't like in my newspaper, you think black people are, or anyone is portrayed unfairly or unjustly, call and complain.
We don't know if we're not informed. So the more you inform us, the more we know, and the better we can present the story.
They're trying to learn. I heard get the word out, leverage media, engage with the media, trying to get the word out. I hope that you took enough here to start doing that stuff, because as much as we will report that stuff, it really does begin with you. And it begins with you being able to tell us the stories that we should be putting on the air and be putting on paper and be just putting out there for people to know. So it really is up to you and finding the right channels to be able to get those stories out.
Thank you so much.